Drivers believe they know how to handle them, but we show when put to the test, they can't control the power. And using secret cameras, we reveal how car salesmen show off to their customers on public roads, driving illegally at speeds of more than 100 miles an hour.
That's quite quick. What speed was that?
That was probably about 120.
Recently, there's been a spate of fatal accidents involving prestige high-performance cars. At least 15 people have been killed in the last 3 months. The latest official figures show they're by far the most dangerous on our roads. Drivers of high-performance sports cars are nearly twice as likely to be killed or badly injured. What kills is speed.
There's no logic at all in building a vehicle which is capable of doing 3 times the national speed limit when we have a 70 miles an hour limit and cars can do, 200 miles an hour.
Worryingly, while statistics show these drivers are a danger to themselves, the government keeps no record of how many pedestrians and other innocent road users they kill. Saturday, March the 19th last year, Joyce Davis and John Sparrow were driving back from holiday in their Nissan Micra. They travelled on A roads thinking they'd be less crowded.
They'd been over the channel for a day and spent 3 or 4 days in Brighton, and they were actually returning to Birkenhead.
Coming in the opposite direction was Anthony Marsh in his Ferrari. He was taking one of his employees out for a spin. Joyce was well within the speed limit when suddenly she was confronted by a huge red sports car spinning out of control.
This Ferrari was being driven at great momentum, great excessive speed. So great that when the driver got into difficulties, he lost complete control. The car moved across the road into my sister's oncoming car and just wiped 2 people off the face of the earth. We had to identify the body, and we actually saw the car. It was just unbelievable to see it.
Manufacturers and dealers claim to encourage the safe and responsible driving of high-performance cars. But that wasn't what we found when we arrived for demonstrations at 3 different showrooms and secretly filmed what happened. First, we went to the AFN Porsche dealership in Chiswick, West London, and asked to go on a test drive in the new 911.
A little bit about the car. It's a 3.6 litre engine, 6-speed manual gearbox.
Porsche claims that on test drives like these it goes to great lengths to ensure safety and advises all salesmen not to exceed the speed limit.
Well, it is a performance car, isn't it?
Yeah.
But it's not long before this salesman puts his foot down. The speed limit here is 50 miles an hour.
That went up to 80 quite quickly then.
30 miles an hour over the limit and committing a criminal offence. He then accelerates to more than 90 in the fast lane.
So what speed was that in third? That went up to...
It will go up to 90, it will go up to 100, but I won't take it up to that sort of speed. It will do about 90.
Next stop, the Maranello dealership in Egham in Surrey, which specialises in Ferraris. We meet up with salesman Richard Hancock to be taken out in the powerful Ferrari 355 TB. Our man is safety conscious.
I hope you don't mind if I put my seatbelt on.
No, I strongly advise.
But throughout the terrifying drive which follows, the salesman leaves his own seatbelt off.
What's the top speed on this?
183.
183.
The The garage is in a 50-mile-an-hour zone, but that doesn't bother the salesman.
That's quite quick. What speed was that?
That was probably about 120.
Then the Ferrari moves into a busy residential area where there are many pedestrians on the streets. The salesman does reduce his speed now.
So what speed's that on now? What speed's that now?
He's driving at more than 3 times the speed limit.
So it's all there. It's just the way you drive the car to find it.
Yes, after having it driven like that, I'm inclined to agree with you there.
Next, our customer goes to the McCarthy Toyota dealership in Weybridge in Surrey.
How you doing? Nice to see you.
He asks for a test drive in the new Supra. McCarthy claims to emphasise safety during test drives. But it's the same old story. No need for a seatbelt and a reckless disregard for the law.
What gear were you in there?
I'm only in 4th now.
That's doing...
Well, I was 4th and I was hitting just under 90.
That's it.
So keep it under the tongue. We don't want to attract anybody if we can help it.
This is a 70-mile-an-hour zone.
I mean, at 95 miles an hour in 6th gear, you're doing a touch over 3,000 revs, which is, it's nothing really.
We contacted the dealers after our test drives. Toyota McCarthy said it did not condone driving at excessive speeds. The Porsche dealer promised an immediate investigation and a severe reprimand for the salesman if our allegations were correct. Maranello handed our inquiry to Ferrari, who refused to comment. These test drives can end in tragedy. In June this year, a Porsche salesman took a customer out in a 911 on a quiet country road in Brecon in mid-Wales. Karen Daly, just 23 years old, was driving to work in her Renault 5 when the Porsche came heading towards her at high speed.
Even if it was a split second, she would have seen that car coming for her. What did she feel? What did she think? Did she have time to say anything? Did she have time to call out?
The 2 cars were engulfed in a ball of fire. Karen Daly was killed instantly. So was the Porsche salesman and his customer. 3 families were left devastated. The speeding Porsche salesman hadn't even completed the company's own advanced driving course.
The car was being shown off to a prospective buyer on the public road, and it shouldn't have been like that. I feel very angry with the car manufacturers because they're pushing powerful cars at people who are really not capable of driving them. I don't think that the roads are capable of taking such powerful cars, and I know that the drivers are not capable of driving them either, of driving the cars.
Experts like the Times motoring editor Kevin Eason, about to go for a test drive in a TVR Chimera, agree. He believes the new breed of high-performance cars can't be viewed like ordinary family motors.
It must be time for us to recognise that these sort of cars are different, they handle differently. They're really loaded weapons. It's absolutely potty. You wouldn't expect anybody to qualify for a pilot's licence, having been in their little Piper Cherokee and be given the keys to a jumbo jet. So why do we expect them to be able to handle monsters like this, which are very close to being racing cars and very little to do with road cars?
If manufacturers are going to produce vehicles which are capable of doing, 3 times the national speed limit, there's something drastically wrong, really. Because if you provide a vehicle which will accelerate from 0 to 60 in 3.5 seconds and has a maximum top speed of 170 miles an hour, eventually someone's going to want to put their right foot down and try it out.
This is the McLaren F1, the fastest car on Britain's roads today. It costs over £630,000. It can travel at up to 230 miles an hour, and it can go from 0 to 60 in just 3.2 seconds. But it's not just a few prestige cars like this which are capable of high performance. While 30 years ago there were just 16 cars capable of going from 0 to 60 in 10 seconds or under, today there are more than 500 car models with the power to accelerate like that.
Why do manufacturers make so many different models of cars that can go at least twice the speed limit?
I think you have to ask yourself, in an international market that we are, what kind of speed limit should we build our cars for? In Europe, for instance, you have free access to the German Autobahn, where there is very little in the way of speed limits there.
All this nonsense about, well, I might have to drive in Germany. If you've ever been to Germany and tried to drive at speed over there, the roads are so congested, and the reality is they don't have that many miles of unrestricted motorway. And anyway, have a look at their accident record. 1 in 3 accidents, fatal accidents, happen on the motorway in Germany. Our accident ratio on the British motorway is 3% of our accidents happen on the motorway.
Studies show most drivers think they can handle high speed, but they can't.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Among the most dangerous are the young and overconfident, suddenly handed a power machine.
First of all, congratulations all of you for passing your
With the help of Silverstone instructors, we took 6 recently qualified drivers on the track to see how they'd fare. At the start, they're all sure of their abilities.
Well, I've never driven at high speed, but I'm definitely looking forward to doing it now.
I think I'll be quite a confident driver, and I'm going to enjoy driving at speed today.
I was driving at speed when I was out on my lessons, was going on at 18 and things like that, and I enjoyed it, so I'm definitely a speed freak.
But they're all in for a shock.
You'll find the Porsche is a little bit different from any car you've driven before.
Take it down behind me. Other car, please, Alan.
Alan is first off. He drives at just 60 miles an hour, but can't control the Cosworth properly. Claire in the Porsche drives at 110 and ends up on the grass verge. All our drivers have difficulties. Pam, also in the Cosworth, simply panics.
Car can see me because you've got one dead middle of the car.
By the end of their tests, our drivers are nowhere near as confident of their abilities.
It's a lot different from, I was driving the Nissan Micra, and getting into the Porsche was quite a lot different.
I think if you've got a very fast car, it would be a good idea to get a little bit of training first, because they're so easy to just spin out and lose it on the corner or whatever, and then goodbye pedestrians, isn't it?
You totally feel out of control, like the person's skidding around at really fast speed, so you've got to put trust in the experts, and it's just really frightening.
Sterling Moss, a survivor of the motor racing track, has been campaigning for graded licences for high-performance cars.
As it is at the moment, other than the advanced driving test, which some people take, there's no kudos or anything that you can aim at. And I think if they did that, then we could say, all right, you have to be up to, shall we say, the police standard, which is pretty high, before you have a really high-performance car or something.
In the context of this programme, it might sound a very attractive idea that you have to pass a special exam before you can go and buy a new car and drive one that you're not used to on the road. I suspect when you try to put that into that theory into practice, you'd find it was a darn sight more difficult to deliver than you might think.
This is the current solution to Britain's speeders. West Mercia Police in pursuit of a driver who's over the speed limit.
I thought he'd try that.
On British motorways, half the drivers go over the legal limit of 70. As many as 70% ignore the 30-mile-an-hour speed limit in built-up zones. More than 500,000 speeding offences are committed in this country each year. It's an epidemic.